Yo! So I wanted to make a quick video about weed because a commenter asked about it. I'm a stoner as much as I'm gay, or I'm a stoner as much as I'm an adulterer, or I'm a stoner as much as I'm a narcissist. I personally believe in it and have experienced that weed really does. It creeps in like a vine, and it just shifts your consciousness. It makes your brain pop full of like ideas, right? It's starting the psychotic element where every single thing is important and every single thing, every single idea pops in, and then at the same time it's also like accelerated the ideas that come in. I think that's the mix of serotonin and dopamine. And it's just a bit excessive, and then relatively on the come down you might get like a serotonin boost for a few days, but relatively on the come down, you're kind of really absent of ideas, and you've kind of like exhausted all these seeds that were there and were growing perfectly to sprout and flower perfectly, or to never and to die, and you've just freaking accelerated them, and then they all kind of die, and then all these like potential seeds have now just been used up. That's how I kind of interpret it. So it's like, general psychedelic experiences, with all kinds of psychedelics, just generally take you somewhere that you shouldn't have gone, and so therefore it's sin. So that's how I interpret it. So, including weed. This kind of gets a bit like fishy and difficult when I have like health issues, or I'm in the doctors, having surgeries and stuff, and they want to put me on all this stuff, but they have a like medicinal range that they stay in, which is basically like a middle ground of getting the value to stop suffering, like if it's morphine or whatever. Which, like I remember I was on a fentanyl drip, and no matter how many times I pressed that, it always stayed in a medical range, except for one time when all the stars were aligned that I actually got like buzzed off it. And but with weed, it's kind of like to arrange that dosage, that it's only medicinal, I suppose. Like, yeah, it can be done, I guess. It depends what strain you've got, and it's just I don't know, it's just odd. It's just why just stay away. I think is a much easier approach, rather than trying to find like, all right, how much of this sin can I do before it's really sin? How how much can I lust after someone before it's really, can I look at her butt twice? It's like at that point you're seeing how far you can go, or what angle you can take where it's not sinful, and that's just weird, and like too much brain power. Just stay away. Just realize that it's like a call of the flesh when you're really attracted to that kind of stuff. I suppose you could say the same possibly about coffee. But yeah, I had a coffee this morning, and that's the reason I made this video. Maybe I shouldn't be making videos, and it's only from taking the coffee. Like, gets me stimulated enough to make the video. Maybe that's sin or not. Could be saying the same about like having a beer or having a weed. At the time, I just thought it was awesome, to be in a middle of a Spanish town and getting the cheapest beer and the cheapest coffee with tomato and bread. It is a kind of hangover from my narcissistic dad, but it is also just a culture here to have that. He taught me how to enjoy that and to take that as a very traditional food. So if I was in, let's say, Amsterdam, would I be like waking up and having a joint at times? Probably. Or going to a coffee while I'm playing some chess and smoking. Yeah, probably. I probably wouldn't have much coffee either. So I really believe it depends where you are. And so I've noticed that it's the people I'm around which get me into weed smoking, because Spain itself is not like Amsterdam. It's not free weed everywhere. I say free weed like decriminalized weed or anything. So really it's just an inconvenient thing to go after it. The whole country is not too interested. There are like legal loopholes, but they're not interested in you going forward with it. So if the nation I'm in isn't interested that I'm going forward with a certain thing, I'm just not really going to bother. But if you have friends that are willing to go down that inconvenient route, or you have, you could say even demons being your friends, so like these faulty belief structures that are brought about from hedonistic or childhood adherences, it could be like your parents' voice or your brother's voice saying, oh, it's fine, it's chill, it's great. Those could be your friends that are influencing you to take it. But if you just go full vanilla, there's just no real reason. So when you feel, even though there are like these synthetic weeds that you can get, and I've been tempted to get it, but the only reason I've been tempted to get it was because of a friend that I've cut off, and so he doesn't actually have a strong enough pull, so I never get it. But like the desire is still there. But yeah, it's about who you hang around. And right now I hang around either nobody or just pretty vanilla family men. And that's working out a lot for me to not dive in there. So those are my thoughts on weed, on drugs in general, on enhancement stuff. And it's generally, adapt to your environment. Don't be, don't become of it, right? And but if you're in a place where smoking weed is a general thing, like, go for it. There's probably going to be a subculture in there that don't smoke an incredibly psychedelic weed, and it's just like a CBD weed, which doesn't really do anything. It's like smoking cigarettes, right? In Spain, the culture is very cigarette heavy, and I only smoke cigarettes as well if I have friends that smoke cigarettes. If I'm on my own, I don't really bother, even though I have the desire. So it just depends who you're hanging around. If you're hanging around people, and you're a Christian, and you love Jesus, and you're hanging around them, and you want to reach them, and you want to get to them, and you're willing to sacrifice yourself for them, I believe then it's when the Paulism comes along, where you can, try to follow like Jewish laws. If you're trying to reach a Jew, you can. If you're trying to reach a stoner, you have a few puffs of his thing, and don't say anything about it. I just think the issue is that we really become these people friends. We treat them as fellow disciples of Jesus, and fellow disciples of the truth. And then we start doing their behaviors, and we start becoming of them, unlike the world. And that's the issue. We're supposed to be Christians following Christ, and his methodology was be around true believers, and then step in for a meal with sinners and drink wine, and have bread or whatever. Some people think having bread is a sin. Anyway, so you step in with the sinners, but they aren't your super comrades. You step in, so you can be in Amsterdam, and if the way things are flowing, it's going to be more convenient that you smoke, that you're going to be able to reach and be intimately connected to this person because that's a big part of their identity or something, or they'll think that you're not like self-righteous, high uppity, whatever. You do it, and you stay there for some time, and then you get out, and ideally you really take a good rest and hang around the right people again, so that you can flush that out, and it's not becoming a part of you, and it's not making you stray. But in those moments, if the reason you're taking it is to connect to someone so that you might arrive at the truth with them, so that you might be able to give them the love of God, and I think it's the exact same as Jesus drinking wine at mealtimes with Pharisees and pimps and stuff, right? So yeah, that's what I think about weed. Conclusively, there's no real point unless there is a point, and we shouldn't let it it's a fleshly thing, and we shouldn't let our flesh dictate whatever to our mind, and we should be conscious of where these arguments are coming from and where these desires are coming from. If they're coming from real life friends, if they're coming from old models that were not particularly on the straight path, if they're coming from literal demonic influences that were influencing those people or are directly influencing you, just consider where they're coming from. And then the most important aspect is do what's the most convenient, because in the nation you're in, the most convenient thing for you to do is most likely going to be the most alright thing. And if you go to Romans 1, talks about there that they go and do the things which are inconvenient, the rebellious ones of God, usually like homosexual relationships and stuff. is the context. And so whenever I'm being drawn to do like an inconvenient thing, I really just take a, you know. So when I was walking around these shops where you can buy this synthetic cannabinoid vaporizer thing, I was like, this is really out of my way and inconvenient. Why would I bother? And it costs money. So I just move on. And it's like, you know, that's being, in my opinion, is being guided by the Spirit, and you know, it's a light burden you're given. You're not forced to go into really inconvenient paths at all. You're given a light burden because you're weary, right? And so in your weariness, are you gonna go to a shop that's out of the way, spend money that you've worked hard for to get a substance which like promises to be a light to lighten your burden? I mean, this is already like what? Our burden is being lightened by the man Jesus Christ. Him, he's alive, he's in you. So why are we going to a shop to get a thing to lighten our burden? You know, the same, it's curious. How that can be extracted out and applied to all drug use is worth exploring. I'm not going to explore it here. I'm just going to, you know, not any more than I have already. Yeah. Weed. Ciao, ciao.